Okay, members, a quorum is present. We ask our guests and visitors in the rear of the chamber and in the gallery to please stand for the prayer. We ask Assembly Member Bob Wieckowski to offer the day's prayer.
Good morning, members. Father, help us welcome each day as if it were our first, so that we may have enthusiasm in our souls, excitement in our hearts, and warmth in our dispositions. Help us to welcome each day as if it were our last, so that we may have urgency in our efforts, a deep concern for the world in our minds, and the peace and love of God in our hearts. Amen.
We ask our guests and visitors to now continue to stand, and join us for the flag salute. Please join Assembly Member Jones as he leads us in the pledge. Mr. Jones. You may be seated. Reading of the previous day's journal.
Assembly Chamber, Sacramento, Wednesday, January 5, 2011. Assembly met at 7 a.m. Honorable Martin Garrick, Assembly Member, 74th District, presiding. Chief Clerk E. Dawson Wilson at the desk. Reading Clerk Russell Tomas reading. The roll was called. Ashajian, Alejo, Allen, Amiano, Atkins, Bell, Berryhill, Block.
Mr. Calderon moves. Mr. Hagman seconds. That the reading of the previous day's journal be dispensed with. Presentations of petitions, there are none. Introduction and reference of bills will be deferred. Reports of committees will be deemed read and amendments deemed adopted. Messages from the governor, there are none. Messages from the Senate, there are none. Motions and resolutions. The absences for the day will be deemed read and printed in the journal. Mr. Calderon, you are recognized. Members.
Good morning, Madam Speaker. I request unanimous consent for Assembly Members Amiano and Nielsen to have guests and photographers on the floor today.
Without objection.
Also, I request unanimous consent to allow Assembly Members Furutani, Logue, Lowenthal, Monty, V. Manuel Perez, and Silva, Assembly Member Silva, to speak on adjourn in memory.
Without objection. Members, we have a couple of presentations, but we're waiting for our guests to arrive, so we're going to move to adjourn in memories. I have the following members presenting adjourn in memories today: Alejo, Furutani, Logue, Lowenthal, Monning, V. Manuel Perez, and Mr. Silva. I see Mr. Silva. Mr. Silva.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is my honor today to adjourn in memory of Dr. George Huguet, who passed away in Huntington Beach Saturday, December the 11th. Dr. Huguet was a community leader in both Orange County and Los Angeles County. He was honored numerous times by this assembly body. Two of the most important honors were he initiated dental programs for the disadvantaged both in Orange County and Los Angeles County, and he was a great benefactor for dental scholarships in Southern California. A staunch supporter of USC athletics, he traveled with the football team. When I was mayor of Huntington Beach, he always had a list of things that he felt had to be accomplished in Huntington Beach. In closing, I wish to honor Dr. Huguet's life and close in his memory. Thank you.
Mr. Monning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I rise to ask that we adjourn in memory today of Sergeant Vincent Wayne Ashlock of Seaside, California, who died on December 4th while on active duty in Afghanistan. Sergeant Ashlock was born in San Jose, raised in the Central Valley. He entered the military at the age of 18, served tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He formed strong relationships with those with whom he served and was particularly proud of his training of NATO troops from Uganda. After his service in Iraq, Sergeant Ashlock signed on for duty in Afghanistan with a special detachment. Sergeant Ashlock was 45 at the time of his death. He leaves his wife, Angela, 5 children, nieces and nephews, and his mother, Margot, and grandmother, Bonnie. His mother serves as a member of Supervisor Dave Potter's staff in Monterey County. Madam Speaker and members, I thank you for adjourning today in memory of the life and in honoring the service of Sergeant Vincent Wayne Ashlock. Thank you.
Mr. Logue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today we adjourn in memory and honor of the life of Browns Valley resident Dave Falante, whose father was an assemblyman. He gave generously of his time and energy to his community, not only as a member of the Yuba Sutter Chamber of Commerce, but also as a charter member of the Lions Club and many other community causes. I join his family and friends in celebrating and revering the accomplishments and legacy of this caring individual whose generosity was extended to everyone without hesitation or expectation of reward, and whose spirit will live forever in the hearts and memories of all of his loved ones. Thank you.
Mr. V. Manuel Perez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker and members, I rise to adjourn in memory of Mr. Marco Antonio De Mare. A local business leader in my district, Marco Antonio De Mare, was tragically killed in a hit-and-run auto accident on December 1st as he was driving to his home in La Quinta. He was 41 years old. Marco is a brother of Dominic De Mare and was brother-in-law to Rena Venturini, known to many of you here as friends and lobbyists in our capital community. Marco grew up in the San Joaquin Valley after earning an MBA from the University of Southern California. He joined a family produce company started by his grandfather. Marco honed his skills as a salesman and later moved to the company's Indio facility, which is in my district. He learned all aspects of the family business and established himself as an emergent industry leader. Marco's most important and cherished role was as husband to his wife, Jackie. They were avid travelers. He also loved to play golf and had a passion for fly fishing. Marco is survived by his wife, Jackie, his parents, Thomas De Mare and Robin Inman, his siblings, Dominic, Thomas Jr., and Amelia, and their families, his stepmother, Billy De Mare, and stepfather, Thomas Mills. Please join me in sending condolences to the De Mare family. I thank you for this opportunity.
Mr. Furutani.
Much, Madam Speaker and members. I ask you to join me in memorial of a good friend, and also, I was looking for the right term, like icon, or this guy's like a folk hero in the area that I am from and where Bonnie Lowenthal and I represent. His name is John O'Gean, and I'm not here to ask you to mourn his passing. I'm asking you to celebrate his great life. 89 years old, he passed away in his sleep. But I don't know if you've ever heard of an octopus catapult. An octopus catapult is one of the games that he devised in the Cabrillo Aquarium down in the San Pedro area. When my boys were growing up, that was a regular place to visit, to look at what was going on with sea life. And John O'Gean was the director emeritus of the aquarium, but also the local educator of everything marine life. He started the whale watching hobby and pursuit that many of you know of now as a very popular area to look at and watch great whales migrate. But he was someone that established young people and education programs about marine life He was 89 years old. He was married for over 50 to Muriel. He had an absolutely great life. We're going to lose him. We're going to miss him, but we're also going to celebrate John Olguin, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Ms. Lowenthal.
Thank you, Madam Speaker and members. I would like to add to my colleague, Mr. Furutani. I think Folk Hero is very apt for John Olguin. Not every city is lucky enough to have someone like John. He was the icon of San Pedro. But we in that area were very fortunate. And I personally was lucky to have known him and appreciated him and to experience his support for young people, as Assemblymember Furutani said, the culture of helping and encouragement that he embodied. His marriage to Muriel, who is an artist, was as loving and supportive as any I've ever seen. They were always together. It was certainly a profound relationship. The entire family was always there to help, and when I first wanted to learn Spanish, I turned to John's brother, Leonard Olguin, a professor at Cal State Long Beach, my first Spanish teacher. So like so many people with roots in San Pedro, I'm part of the Olguin legacy, and it is with a mixture of gratitude, pride, and grief that I join you in memorializing his passing in this way.
Thank you, members. Please bring the names to the desk to be printed in the journal. Mr. Nielsen.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Assembly, I would ask that you join me in acknowledging and recognizing a true institution in state government who is retiring. Mr. Peter Schaafsma, for some many years, I think around 11 or 12 now, has been the chief fiscal consultant for the Assembly Republican Caucus. Graduated from Berkeley in 1976 with a master's in business administration, and then went to work for our legislative analyst. Later became the deputy treasurer of the state of California, and from there came to us. He is one of those unsung and unrecognized heroes, there are many of them in this institution, who really are what make it all work, particularly in that critical area of the budget. Peter is a man who can work with everybody. I think all of the colleagues of the Democratic side that he worked with over the decades will attest to that. A thorough knowledge of fiscal history of the state of California, and one who actually has a very humorous personality behind that kind of foreboding green shade and shaded visor look that the fiscal folks often have. But Peter has been around a long time and stewarded our state budget through many, many challenges, including the last several years, which have been the most challenging. At 11:30 in the basement, if you can come by to recognize and pat that man on the back, I wish you would surely do so. With him today is Sandy, his wife, and his son Will, and Roger Nilo, our former colleague who, well, he's always our colleague, but who worked so much prior to me assuming these duties with Peter. A good friend of all of us, a great steward of the people of the state of California. Please acknowledge Mr. Peter Schaafsma, and we do have a resolution that I think I could argue to present on your behalf.
Mr. Blumenfield.
I just want to, can't add much to the eloquent words of the Vice Chair, but I want to add a note of bipartisanship. Mr. Schaafsma has been really a steward of the institution in the budget process. He's made the process go smoothly in that he really cares about the institution and he cares about getting the work done. And we're grateful on both sides of the aisle for his dedication and his work, and I thank you for that.
Okay, business on the daily file, there is none. We have one more presentation, but we are waiting for our guest to arrive from the Senate. So I will go through the session schedule for the next 2 weeks. Monday, January 10th, floor session at noon. Tuesday, January 11th, check-in session. Wednesday, January 12th, check-in session. Thursday, January 13th, check-in session. Friday, January 14th, floor session at 9 a.m. Monday, January 17th is a holiday, Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Tuesday, January 18th, floor session at 12 noon. Wednesday, January 19th, check-in session. Thursday, January 20th, floor session at 9 a.m. Okay, Ms. Lowenthal, you have one more adjourned memory? Ms. Lowenthal.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I hope you'll join me today in acknowledging the life of an extraordinary Californian by adjourning in the memory of Don Westerland of Long Beach. He died suddenly and unexpectedly last week while walking his dog. He was 75. Don was the personification of a prominent citizen in Long Beach, a philanthropist, a civic participant, and ordained minister. Don could be counted on for any number of civic activities. When the community hospital of Long Beach was facing financial collapse, Don was the natural go-to person. He became the president and CEO of the hospital foundation and helped guide it back to financial health before retiring in 2006. Prior to that, he had worked as the CEO at Family Services of Long Beach for the better part of 3 decades. I won't go into all his extraordinary accomplishments, but Long Beach was fortunate to have him, and I thank you for this moment to honor him.
Mr. Bradford.
I too today rise in memory of a dear friend, Roderick D. Jones. Rod Jones, better known as RJ, was not just a constituent of mine, not just a political confidant and consultant, but my longest friend on this planet. We met in 4th grade, and we've been friends for 41 years. He served as planning, Parks and Rec Commission in the city of Gardena, Rent Mediation Board in the city of Gardena. He walked plenty of precincts for folks throughout the South Bay, helped get a lot of folks elected, and I can assure you I would not be standing here today as a member of this legislature if it wasn't for him. It was through his encouragement many days that he said, knock one more door, walk one more precinct. So I just want to recognize his efforts. After a 20-year career with FedEx, he decided to dedicate his life to the youth of this state and became a deputy probation officer and served L.A. County for the last 9 years. And he was so regarded in that position that over 50 probation officers showed up at his funeral that day in uniform to salute his service to that department. So I just want to ask you guys to join me in saluting a great Californian, a great constituent, a dear friend, Roderick D. Jones. He leaves behind his mother and father, Herman and Ernestine Jones, 2 sisters, Brenda and Sandra, and a nephew, Rashid. So I want to thank you guys for this opportunity and for this opportunity to adjourn in his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bradford. All other items remaining will be passed and retained. All motions shall be continued. Okay, members, we're still waiting for our guests to arrive, so it will take a few minutes still. Thank you.
members, as a lifelong Dodgers fan, it gives me great pains to direct your attention to the rear of the chamber where Mr. Amiano has a presentation.
Okay. Honorable colleagues, Mr. Speaker, I am thrilled to welcome to this chamber people who represent an American dream manifested by baseball. We may have been through torture, we may have been through fear the beard, but we didn't fear the Rangers, and we didn't fear the Phillies, and we didn't fear the bad press. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to honor my team, the San Francisco Giants, and the winners of the World Series. Here to accept the award, I'd love to quote Tim Lincecum, but I can't in these chambers, but believe me, I feel that spirit, is Larry Baer, President and Chief Operating Officer. Mr. Baer. Bill Newcomb, Managing General Partner and CEO. Stacy Slaughter, Senior Vice President. Shauna Daum, Director of Public Affairs. Missy McLetley, Director of Team Photography and Archives. Nathan Naiman, Visa Trophy sponsor, and Paul Russinoff, Visa Trophy sponsor. We will be having a reception. All members are welcome in the Willie Brown Room when we conclude the session. Thank you so much. Go Giants. I can't wait till next year.
All right. Members, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. Members, I'm ready to entertain a motion to adjourn. Looks like Mr. Calderon moves, Mr. Garrick seconds. This House stands adjourned until Monday, January 10th at noon. Quorum call is lifted. This House stands adjourned.